Hey guys, how's it going? Let me know if the audio is good. Good deal. Well, I will give it about a minute here, 30 seconds to a minute. Let a few more people get in here, and I guess we will start in again. Well, I had to go get a new phone this morning, or go pick up one, I should say. Ordered one last night at about 5:30, and the old one is, I can't really say. Well, I wouldn't say it could be fixed. I mean, the screen probably could, but oh, it's actually working again. I don't know if I can. Is it going to turn on? No, it's not going to turn on anymore. Yeah. If I take it out of the case, you can actually see that this is actually warped down. The headphone jack is actually probably no longer functioning. It bent it right there at the headphone jack, actually, that whole corner. So S10 Plus is down. This was actually my favorite phone by far. That was a very, very expensive phone that I bought back, I don't, back actually in November. No, yeah, November. Um, that was a 1 terabyte internal storage phone with 256 gigs of external storage. So yeah, that thing had a boatload of storage, and at least the nice thing is the external storage goes with the, or I can take out the external storage. Hence it being external, unlike iPhones having strictly internal storage. So that kind of sucks that I'm losing the 1 terabyte. I wanted to go to an S10 Plus again. Best Buy, however, I'm not going to work through Verizon. I just deal with unlocked phones at this point. Just I've been dealing with unlocked phones since my S8. My S8 was the last phone I actually bought from Verizon, who's our carrier, basically, unlimited data also. We switched to unlimited data. We were on a 20 gig plan for, a year and a half till I don't know. We ended up adding the iPad because that was back when Pioneer had us go to iPads or add iPads along with our laptops and stuff. And we figured a 20 gig plan would be good enough. And I talked with my cousin because at the time I didn't really know at the time I didn't really know enough about data usage back then. And my cousin's like, you guys better look into unlimited. Year and a half later, we ended up going to unlimited, and that was the best thing we ever did with Verizon. Sprint service sucks. T-Mobile service sucks. AT&T is probably, if there wasn't Verizon, AT&T would be our next choice for cell service. But so, anyways, back to the phone. Ended up going to Best Buy then and ordering an unlocked phone like my last one was, and just swapping the SIM card. And the only thing that was available in what I was looking for was either an S10 or newer. And I only wanted the plus size because I like that size of phone, just especially for the photo editing and stuff on my phone. And the S10 Pluses were completely out of stock until next weekend. And I just, for some business purposes that go through my phone a lot, I just can't essentially go without. I hate to say this, but I can't really go without a phone for a week. It'd be kind of tough to not be able to one contact our salesman because our sale. Well, not to say that he can't go through dad on some of this stuff, but or really grandpa too because he's got grandpa's number. But I can't even think of the last time he's ever called grandpa or ever has needed to call grandpa really. But anyways, um, but yeah, so well, that's another thing I'll talk about, which will probably be dropping later this week as a video on that is the purchase. But anyways, back to the phone. They didn't have any S10 pluses in stock, so I'm like, well, I guess I can look at the S20s, and I wasn't really wanting to go to S20s, but here I'm sitting with a brand new S20 Plus. I did not go with the Ultra because the Ultra at 6.9 inches, that's a big phone, and the 6.7-inch phone is big enough. So, but yeah, my old one, the S10 Plus, was a 6.4-inch. So this one, just to compare, the S10 Plus that I had had 1 terabyte of internal storage and 256 gigs of external. This one has 128 gigs of internal, and I just moved the external card over to this one. So basically about just under 500 gigs. So not too bad. I mean, I kind of like the extra. I like the ability to have the extra storage on my old phone with the 1 terabyte, which my cousin thought that was insane having 1 terabyte on there. But you never know what you're going to end up putting on your phone. I mean, I've put quite a bit of stuff on my phone in years past, and especially when I ran with iPhones for 2 years there. Or, well, not 2 years, but for the iPhone 5, and then 2 years later go to the iPhone 6s and the 5s and 6s, and having only 16 gigs on my first iPhone, and then going to 64 on my second iPhone, and then going to the S8 and having 128, I think, and then realizing I needed more and going to the 1 terabyte, but now I'm back down to 128, but I should be fine with 128 again. But enough with the phone. Let's talk the new purchase. Physically, I have not gone and seen it yet. I'm surprised. I think I have a feeling it came in on, I think Friday. Sorry, Friday morning. I think it was. Today is Sunday, and it was funny because our salesman, called up Dad right away, and Dad was just getting ready to answer, and after 2 rings, it immediately quit. And Dad's like, well, that's odd. Then, so Dad called him back right away, thinking, he lost us or something, whatever. And he called him back and talked to him and found out the new purchase came in, and there was some. I can't say there's an issue with it, but precision. Well, it's not precision. I should say it's 360 yield center. We had some issues with that. They just had a discrepancy on one of the issues there, so they are taking a look at that and going to resolve that issue with the company that we're basically buying this from. So anyways, I will have more details on that. You guys can use that information however you'd proceed or going forward with that. Some of you guys that follow the community tab know what I'm talking about. So you guys can take your guesses again on that. I'm not going to hold anybody against hold anybody against that for using that information. I mean, I haven't given any specific I can't really say specific details, but I mean, I did give you guys a little bit there, but I haven't really given you exactly what we bought, or basically what I bought, really, because I'm going to be the one writing the check for it. But yeah, so that should be here sometime this week, I would think, because they're actually finished putting it together. It shouldn't take them too long, honestly. It should be done by Tuesday, I think, depending on if they get those issues resolved. Really, it's nothing major. It's just something minor that they need to adjust, and possibly us have to fabricate something to, modify some existing part that 360 Yield Center wants us to recommends that that should be done. So I don't know. I really, without us being there and looking at it, it's kind of hard to tell. So basically, we just got to go over there. One, I want to go over there, and so does Dad and Grandpa because they really want to check the thing out and see it while they're putting it together, and also see basically what our options are on that. Because I guess our dealer gave us a few options, and he's going to run that past. Well, that came from 360 Yield Center, and basically he's just playing the messenger at this point and trying to figure out what is the best option for us on that. But so that will be around later this week, possibly, just depending on what goes on. Right now, we won't be really doing anything in the fields for quite some time. Not that we're too busy this time of year between planting and side dressing. Typically, we don't have this kind of a break as far as between basically planting and spraying and side dressing. Typically, in years past, it's always been we always have corn up and beans also, and or beans. By the time we finish planting, which we finished planting last Wednesday at noon. That's when I got the beans done over at the river. I will have that last video out. I have it uploaded. I just haven't set basically a date for it yet. I'll end up doing that tomorrow. And then the Lost GoPro video, for those that follow the community tab and actually watch that one video about that GoPro I lost over on Hefner's. That is basically why I haven't done or released a video over there on Hefner's, is because of the fact that that GoPro that I lost had 85% of the footage for that one video. So having clips in there of just me talking to you guys and, you know, having a clip at 8 o'clock, jumping all the way to 1 o'clock to jumping all the way to 7 o'clock wouldn't have really made much sense to you guys watching it, because there's so much there's such a gap in time there that you guys wouldn't have understood anything in that video whatsoever. So I figured if I could find it, which we ended up finding it, which I did post that on the community tab, and I will discuss part of that in the video actually releasing tomorrow. So probably Tuesday or Wednesday I'll release the Lost GoPro video. So you guys can look forward to that. And like I said, the new purchase, I mean, that all depends on what needs to be done to that and what issue. Well, we know the issue. I guess it's just a matter of taking a look at it and seeing if it's something that we can do, because it's kind of sounding like that it's something that we can do. And if so, they're just going to basically finish putting it together and get it to us, and we'll do that and get that ready to go for side dressing. But like I said earlier, typically in years past, it seems like we've always had corn or beans up around this time by the time we get them planting. And basically we just flow right into side dressing. And by the time we get done with side dressing, everything's back up to basically the stage that basically the last field that we finished side dressing is the stage at what the first field that we side dressed on. So basically it's just a steady, continuous strive all the way till harvest then. Basically after we get done spraying our post-emerge, it's flowing right into wheat harvest basically. And after wheat harvest, we get like a 3 week, I would say 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks period there, kind of grace period where we can kind of relax a little bit, if you can say relax, because we do fertigating. So fertigating kind of cuts into that a little bit there, and then get ready for harvest then. So really, we don't really have a grace period like what we're experiencing right now, where we literally are just now getting stuff up out of the ground as of 2 days ago. Our first planted beans that were planted on the 24th, 24th. So the irrigated beans over there, the 30-inch rows, the irrigator 143. So where we did the seed treatment plot, the corn plot, the bean plot, and where I had the sweet corn out there, which the second planting of sweet corn was done Wednesday. No. I don't know. It was when we finished planting corn. I don't know. It was over a week ago. And as of right now, it's we're getting another storm blow in through here, and we're supposed to get another inch of rain tonight, and we're already sitting at, I would say, about 4 inches. So yeah. So there's quite a bit of guys that are around here that are not done planting, and we are fortunate enough to be one of the lucky ones to be done planting. I know some that haven't even started, but that's kind of typical for them to not have anything done. Even last year. Last year they didn't even get started till like towards the end of May, and typically they're one of the last ones to get going in this area. Um, or in this part of the county, really, I should say, South County. We call this basically, just for some local talk here, we call LaPorte County in our area south of 30 South County. That's just, you'll hear me kind of mention that sometimes in the video or refer to that. So it's not the name of the county. LaPorte County is the name of our county, just for local talk. We call this part of the county South County. So basically in South County here, I would say we're about 65, 70% done, if not closer to 75 total, both corn and beans overall, basically planting progress. As for corn, and if I split it off to corn and beans, it's kind of hard to tell because I really don't know for sure. Break down exactly what people have done for sure, but just a rough idea driving around, I kind of have an idea on what people have done in general. So, it's pretty nice to be able to be done and have, like I said earlier, a kind of a grace period in here where we're already done with pre-merge spraying and our pre's are all down. And basically, it's just a matter of doing some of our burn downs in a couple of cornfields yet, just because we're kind of at a point where it's kind of like, do we even really need to? Because some of these fields actually got uh, froze in basically shortly after we planted, back when we had a freeze about a week ago, I think it was, right? And yeah, about a week ago. Yeah, because last stream it would have been a week ago Friday, and yeah, and you could really tell that these weeds got hammered out in some of these fields. So it's kind of almost like, do we almost really need to do a burn down at this point? But we'll still do a burn down, and we'll be out and about doing our posts in the next week and a half, I would say, week, and side dressing. Like I said, that'll be right around the corner in the next, I would say, I don't know. It's hard to tell, just depending on the weather. It's supposed to stay in the 70s and get up into the 80s toward the end of the week. So that's good that we're getting some heat units here, and I would say no more than 2 weeks. So that'll be cool. So, well, I guess I better get on these questions here. Are you guys thinking of upgrading the 4650 or the sprayer tractor to something bigger and newer? I don't know. I get this question all the time on the 4650. The 4650 was the last tractor that we ever bought new. That tractor is an 83. Reason why I'm kind of looking over here, like I've said in videos past, it's on my wallpaper here on my third computer here, or third monitor over here. And I mean, it would be nice, don't get me wrong, but find me someplace that's going to pay $4 a bushel for corn, and then we'll talk more on upgrade wise for a tractor. Um, it's There's really nothing wrong. Even the planter's setup. I mean, guys ask me why, which I'll flow into one of the discussion board questions I posted on the community tab about the 8530 not being on the planter. The planter setup as it sets right now is perfect, in my opinion, as far as what we've got right now. Yes, I know V drives would be nice, but they're not a necessity. I mean, we can get by with it. I mean, for 20 some $1,000, I think in order for us to go V drive, we have to convert our planter over to a vac. Now, granted, some of you guys might have seen in some of my videos, and if you follow me on Instagram or Snapchat, some of my pictures of the one outer row unit saying Maximerge Plus vacuum eater. Our planter is not a vacuum eater. I can't remember exactly what the deal was with that outside row unit, but it was, I don't know if it was slightly bent or something was wrong with it, that we ended up buying one of the row units over at Knox at the time, back when we bought this back in the 90s. And this planter was used, but it was fairly new when we bought it. It was used, like I said, but it didn't have very many acres on it back in the 90s when we bought it. It's probably a 95, 96 model. We still have to run the brown box with it. It's just old enough that we still have to channel everything through the brown box. And then, so basically, all of our coverage maps we get from, or as planted maps we get through the 2020. We run a Gen 1 2020 if you didn't know that. But so basically, we ended up buying a outside row unit, or a row unit from Knox to replace the outside one. And the one on display basically in Knox had basically was a vacuum meter one, and or had the decals for vacuum meters. So we don't run vacuum meters at all, or vac meters. It just so happened to have the decal for vac meters on there. So whatever. um, so I don't know. Like I said, we would have to convert the planter over to a vac system or vac meters in order before we go to V drives. And if we ever go to V drives, it would be nice to go to Delta Force, but there again, those aren't necessities. It would be nice. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like you just don't know, or really don't. At an economic standpoint, at $2 and I don't know, I think $2.70 corn, does it really make sense to throw more money at the planter? It's just one of those things where it's like you got to look at your ROI. Like I discussed in the last video, with the narrow gauge wheels, it just doesn't make any sense because there's no real ROI there to begin with. I mean, it's just one of those things where it would be nice to run narrow gauge wheels, but it's just, you got to look at your ROI on that. So as far as the 4650 goes, to kind of bring it all back in, because I know I like to, take a big circle on some of these things to kind of explain some of this stuff better for you guys. Yeah, like I don't know, like an 8320R. And the reason why I say that is just because I know that one will have the capabilities to not only pull the vertical till, but pull basically any basically what I want to be able to have that tractor do is be able to pull the vertical till, or have a second tractor to be able to pull the vertical till, because the 8530 is, our salesman's hounding me about it, about the hours that we're putting on the 8530. Yeah, but I guess utilize a tractor that's not essentially worn out like the 4630. The 4630 is pretty well worn out, and that's why we're kind of limiting the hour use on it, because we know it's kind of just a matter of time before we have some serious issues with it. So we're kind of limiting the hour use on it and reducing it to, the smaller, hardly ever real low use jobs such as the mowing, and spreading the fertilizer for, I don't know, rye and wheat, because we just run a spreader, or borrow a spreader from the co-op and spread fertilizer for that. But otherwise, we have all of our spreading variable rate applied and done through our custom applicator. So just stuff like that. It's just, our salesman really wants us to replace the 4650 with an 8245R. Yeah, an 8245R would be nice, because then we wouldn't have to put the 8530 or take the 8530 off a side dressing duty and put that 8245R on a side dress applicator then, because then it would have at least 4 SCVs on it. Because mainly what I'm looking for at this point is a tractor with at least 4, if not 5 SCVs at this point, because going forward, I mean, just looking at equipment, it's just all a matter of utilizing your SCVs, and the amount of SCVs this equipment takes is, day and age is crazy. But I mean, look at the hydraulic components that you're trying to run. So, I mean, you can't really argue with that. So, like say for instance the side dress applicator that we have, it takes 4 SCVs. So you look at the 4650. Well, you could put a Fozzie valve on it, but just I don't know. I mean, yeah, put a Fozzie valve or run the 8530. Put the Fozzie valve on, run an 8530. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't. It's just a toss up really. So I don't know. Um, it's probably your Wi-Fi, Justin, because I know Braden was telling me my mic's a little bit fuzzy, but it could just be the Wi-Fi right now. Because, like I said, we do have a storm kind of passing through here, and it did die down a little bit. But so, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. It's a toss-up. I mean, ours right now in the 8530, I'm going to answer that right now, Mark, is just over 4,600. We bought it at 4,214, I think. Now, granted, we do run it on the grain card, so there's some unnecessary hours on there. Now, what I try and do is with the grain card, because I understand the hours are different between the 4650 and 8530. And what I mean by is hours on the, say, 4650, 4430, 4630, 4230, and henceforth are all RPM hours. Now, the 8530 and other newer tractors are all based on real-time real-time hours. So necessarily, you could be sitting there idling for 5 hours, and your hour time is going to be different having the 4650 just sit there and idle, because it's all based on RPM hours for the 4650 versus you're actually going to put physically 5 hours on that tack on the 8530. So what I do is to kind of try and reduce the hour meter on the 8530, or limit the amount of hours being put on during the grain carting season for that tractor. Is if there's long runs where I'm going to be sitting around basically during bean harvest when we're cutting beans, because there's a lot of times I'm just sitting around in the grain cart just waiting, unlike corn when we're picking corn. But when we're cutting beans and I'm just sitting there on the ends and I'm waiting for a round, if not 2 rounds, I'll literally just shut the tractor off. I mean, there's no reason to sit there and run the tractor on idle and rack up unnecessary hours. I mean, I don't know what you guys all do, but I mean, to me, it just makes sense because you're just putting unnecessary hours on it. So, I mean, going back to, again, the 4650, I mean, like I said, I mean, you could put a Fozzie valve on it and run it, but you've got a nice tractor that you could side dress with. Arguably, it's probably more it is more horsepower than needed for, it is definitely more horsepower than needed for side dressing. I mean, by God, for what we are going to do with this, I mean, you could put the 4430 on it if you wanted to. But is the 40, I mean, I necessarily you don't need to put auto steer or run auto steer on it, but I mean, having the ability to have a John Deere rate controller on it and run it all through the 2630 and everything. I mean, granted, you could do the same. Like I said, you can do the same thing with the 4650 if you had a Fozzie valve on it, because the 4650 only has 3 SCVs. But it's just our preference. We're going to run it on the 8530. So going to why we don't run the 8530 on the planter, that's all Dad's decision. I mean, he wanted to keep the 4650 on the planter. That's one of his favorite tractors to run on the farm is the 4650. So not only is just because he likes running it, but because he's got that dialed down to a T on exactly what he needs to do. Is he comfortable running the 8530 yet? Lord, no. He is by no means, master that IVT. Not to say I can say I've mastered it just for the past couple of years that I've run it, but I would say I've got a pretty darn good handle on how to run it, since I put 99% of the hours, 98% of the hours on that tractor since we bought it on auction over in Iowa for a really, really good price for what it was. So, but yeah, so it's just those things. You just kind of give and take situation. I mean, it really doesn't, it's just all personal preference there, really. So, as far as a sprayer goes, though, that's a whole different story, because there's a good possibility we're going to be doing something with the sprayer for next year. There's some opportunities available for us that we could possibly step into a sprayer that would suit us really nicely. So we're going to basically look at all of our options here. And in years past, I haven't really looked at a sprayer as close as what I was looking at this past year, just because I knew, I mean, why bother looking at something when you know you're not going to, one, be upgrading it anytime soon, and two, some of the stuff that you're looking at farm show, you're never ever going to be able to afford for, till it trickles down to the used market with a decent amount of hours on it. Most of you guys understand what I'm coming from there. So basically referencing the 690, 6-7 years ago when we walked in the farm show, did I ever think we'd ever have a 690? No. But I don't know, when you walk down to Mallory's and you can buy it, not to say that, everything goes cheap down there, but for that night at 7:32 at that night on December 19th, like I said, I will never forget that day. Hammer comes down at 100, I don't know, 15,000. I mean, I don't know. And earlier that day at 10 o'clock, 680 fully loaded. Basically, the only thing it didn't have was a leather seat, 112.5. I mean, and those very same combines on a dealer's lot are at least 180, if not $220,000. I mean, I'll say it again and again and again. I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, typically, Ryan, typically, like I said before, first field of corn is always up, but it should be up the 66 acres, what we call the 66 acres. Technically, it's not 66 acres anymore in front of our house. Should be up this week, but we just had a little stretch of cold weather there, so that set it back just a little bit. Like I said in the previous stream, I think I talked about this in the previous stream, we weren't really concerned about the frost at all, just because we didn't have any corn and soybeans up. So we weren't really too concerned about that, just due to one, we didn't have anything up, and we had zero concern about the growing point at all. So unlike some of the other neighbors that planted super, super early around here. I mean, early enough to begin with, and then on top of that, insanely early for our area, even though they all thought, why not, so, but that's their choice. I mean, I'm not going to bash anybody by that, but I mean, I don't know, their crops are faring some of them are faring pretty good through it. So have you ever thought of buying a new 8RX? For $540,000. Let me confirm on this. I want to be straight with you guys on this. John Deere, build your own. So when I first, when John Deere first came out with the new, I really don't understand. What do you guys even think John Deere calls this new class? I don't know. I'll just call it the new class, the new 8R class. I screenshotted the base model prices and posted them on Facebook and said, wowzers. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it's kind of basically on the borderlines of ridiculous for those prices. I guess the main thing is I'm excited about with these new John Deere tractors coming out is that the R series is finally going to get tiered down on price. So it make it almost a little bit reasonable to buy one on a used market outside of a John Deere dealership. So let's look at, say, an 8370R or an 8R 370. An 8R 370 base model starts at $432,652. Now let's look at, say, an 8RX 370. $529,350. So what our dealer had me do was, because he saw my Facebook post and commented on it and said, take a base model 8245R and, or sorry, 8R250, sorry. Take a base model 8R250, tell me the price, so 299, 101, 109, and then take that base model, fully load the 8R250, tell me the price and tell me the price difference. And it ended up being 400 and some $1,000 after fully loaded with options. And it was like I want to say $167,000 in price difference, I want to say. I mean, that just sticks in my mind, but it's somewhere, it was well over 120,000. I know that, but it was, it's just one of those things where it's just like, are you kidding me? 100 and some $1,000 in options. That's crazy. So he goes like, well, that's the difference between your base model and your premium model. Yeah, but there again, my point is we bought the 4650 brand new back in 82, 83, for 70, $80,000. And a new tractor now, base model, is $300,000 for equivalent tractor, because basically we have the 4650 turned up to 230 horse. So sorry, let's compare realistic horsepower. 8R230 to a 4650. 8R230 is $283,000. So add another $200,000 then basically. I mean, are you kidding me? I don't know. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know. Why do you seed drill the beans? So why do we drill the beans? Basically, since Dad was pretty much my age, if not before that, we've always drilled the beans. We actually had, I want to say, Great Plains drill before the 750 that we had now. We bought the 750 in the late 80s, early 90s, because we did quite a bit of no-tilling beans around here. Nobody, when we started no-tilling, we started no-tilling corn and beans both. Typically, a lot of guys started no-tilling beans. Nobody around here no-tilled corn. That was just a cardinal sin to be no-tilling your corn. A few neighbors around here thought we were going broke because we wanted to no-till or started no-tilling. We just saw the numerous benefits of no-tilling and decided, you know what? The heck with moldboard plowing, and let's go into no-tilling. And we've never really looked back since. I mean, honestly, there's really no reason for us to go back to conventional tillage at this point. So, but anyways, drilled beans always out-yielded road beans, 30s especially. I really don't think there was really mainly any 20s back then or 15s really. There was quite a few 15s, but not as many as the 30s. Really mainly because, back then, having a corn planter and a bean planter, it was, 30-inch rows. It would just made things a lot cheaper and simpler to have a one planter then at that point. Then they came out with quite a few splitter planters and stuff like that for 15s. That way, if you wanted to plant 15-inch row beans, you had the option to. So basically going forward from there, drilled beans seem to always outperform 15s and 30s. Not so much the 15s. 15s was kind of a toss-up there for, ever since about 10, 12 years ago. And still out-yielded the 30s till about 5-6 years ago. Then it seemed to be a complete wash across the board between the 7.5s and the 30s. And basically what we see is by going from the 7.5s down to 30s, you're going to reduce your overall population by at least 20,000. And that adds up into huge seed savings. So, which basically one of your biggest costs per acre is your seed costs. So by being able to reduce that overall, that's a huge significant win right there by going to 30s. I have talked about 30s in the past. about how I didn't really think that I would ever want to go to 30s. How about 15s at first is what I would want to go to, but then I got got to thinking on 15s. It's like, you're going to, if you plant them on an angle, then that'd be a different story. But if you plant them straight, you're going to be running over a complete row of beans with the sprayer. And not to say that you can't side dress your beans, because if you haven't followed me before, we are going to be side dressing those 30-inch row beans that we put out this year. We put out 2 fields to let everybody know, to remind everybody, and basically to inform those that are new. We have 2 fields of 30s this year, 30-inch row beans. One is 143 acres that's irrigated, and the other is 50 acres that's dry land, non-irrigated. And we're going to side dress them with at least 1 application of thiazole and micros, and possibly 2. So we did put down starter, 4-gallon thiazole at 12 gallons to the acre, and then we ran our in-furrow mix at 24 ounces, and then just cut that with water to get it up to the 3 gallon to the acre. So it's just, if we can get high yields with 30s, I wouldn't really understand why would we want to go down to 15s and 20s. 20s, I understand you're going to have less weed you're going to have more weed suppressions in 15s and 20s versus 30s. But I guess this will be a good year to look at and see, having 2 different fields and 2 different locations, basically to compare weed pressure, because that's going to be the main thing that we're going to be really looking at, not only besides yield. Basically, yields are number one thing that we're going to be looking at here and chasing. That's why we're side dressing them, 1. And 2, because it just makes more sense to side dress beans, similar to the corn. Not to say that we're going to pour 28 out there, because that's just going to make the beans lazy and cause them not to nodulate as well. But that's a whole another agronomic live stream discussion that we can talk on beans nodulating and stuff like that in 28. Because I have heard of some guys having success with 28 on beans, but we'll save that for another time. But anyways, if we can make 85 bushel beans, if not even higher, I mean, higher would be awesome. But if we can do 85 bushel average beans in 30s, then it would just make more sense to just run 30s and get another bean planter. Now, granted, people would say, well, why don't, if you're just going to run 30s and beans also, then if this works out, you just discussed earlier about the efficiency factor of having just 1 planter and being able to plant corn and beans with that 1 planter. Yes, to a point, but if you're wanting to plant corn and beans at the same time, that that's an issue there. So you'd still want to have a second planter. So that's why I would want to go to a 16 row 30 CCS 1770 NT. Doesn't really matter on the year, in my opinion, as long as it, the bar is good, and basically the row units look good, because really anything can be rebuilt on the planter. But yeah, so I mean, that's just some of my thoughts I'm having right now, is just because you're going to have hardly whittle to literally zero on beans getting run over, except on the end rows. So with 20s, though, you're going to have to adjust your row spacing for side dressing and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things where it's like you got to think about that kind of stuff. If if beans are going to perform, if you're going to get those kind of yields with that row spacing, why bother going down to a narrower row spacing? Just makes things a little bit easier. And as far as a side dress applicator goes, setting up for 15s, it'd be pretty simple. But then again, you got to look at your tram lines and stuff like that, for running over beans and stuff like that, and also consider your sprayer tram lines too for 15s and also 20s. I mean, 20s, a side dress applicator between switching 20s to 30-inch row corn, that kind of gets, I just want to be able to flow between, if side dressing works out, it'd just be so much easier to flow between corn and beans for side dressing. Just be able to do that, pulling from one field to the next, say we finish up with your side dressing beans and we want to be side dressing corn by the end of the day. Literally, it's just a matter of, I don't know, closing one valve on the tank, opening up the other valve, and getting our mix that we're going to run for side dressing on corn. So, which is going to be 28 in thiazole and some micros. And, right now it's 28 in thiazole just because I don't know for sure exactly how many gallons of 28 exactly we have in that tank over there at our house. But we're going to run that 28 out and then run 32 then, just because we actually ended up prepaying and locking in some 28 there at the beginning of the year. And it was actually a really good price that we got at. Just everybody tells us, why don't you run 32, or why wouldn't you order 32? Well, at the time, I mean, it was in the winter time when we got 28, so technically you can't really get 32 because it freezes. But everybody we started talking to at the plant now all of a sudden says that you can get 32 and it doesn't freeze. Well, 32 always freezes. So why, unless you're putting something with it, which we don't know about, that doesn't that prevents it from freezing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just something we're gonna have to talk to one of our head fertilizer sales guys about for next year. So because 32, you're going to be running less gallons per acre, because the difference in 28 and 32, I believe it's 2.8 gallons per pound of N versus I believe it's 3.4 is 32. I'll have to, you guys can double check me on that for sure, but I believe that's what it is. 28 is 2.8 per gallon, pounds per gallons per pound, and 3.4 gallons per pound. So, but so yeah, I mean, that's just something, I'm thinking about, as far as bean planting goes. As far as what tractor, Evan, I don't know, probably the 8530, I would imagine, for planting beans. It would be nice to not have to use a drill on the 8530. I mean, it's really no horsepower. Horsepower is not a situation there where it's an issue for the drill. But the 4630 is just it. You would have to run markers with the 4630. Not to say that we could put an ATU unit in, but why spend the money on putting an ATU unit in the 4630 when you got a tractor that's capable of auto steer? And there again, I discussed earlier why we're not running the 4650 on the drill. That's all Dad's personal preference, because I actually wanted to run the 8530 on the planter, and Dad just didn't want to because he wasn't comfortable with the 8530, which I understand. I mean, it took me a little bit to get used to a totally new transmission. So Mark, on the population on the beans, we shot for 140,000. We were bumping, at least on the 2020. The 2020 was reading 147, so we backed that down just a little bit. One setting, and so we were dropping about 142. So we're right there at about 140,000 on 30-inch row beans. I have heard of some guys dropping 120 on 30-inch row beans, and even 80,000. But I guess when it's all said and done, when the beans are up, we'll ground truth them and see exactly what stand we end up getting, which I wouldn't be surprised it's around 127, 130,000 when it's all said and done, if not less. We'll just have to wait and see. So, would y'all consider getting a bigger drill? A 30 to 40 foot 1990 CCS would be nice. It's just the fact that the wheat acres we do, it's kind of hard to justify a drill of that size. I mean, if we were running 400, acres of wheat a year and, had double the beet acres, if not more, it would make more sense. And, if we were going to stay with drilled beans, yeah, it would make sense. But at this point, a 30-foot drill, a 40-foot would be ideal, but a 30-foot drill is kind of what I would be looking at, just because really, if we're going to go away from drilled beans completely, then necessarily we don't need a 40-foot. But like I said, it would be nice to have, but it's not a necessity. But a 30-foot would kind of be in my size. I'd be wanting. But for basically manually drilling rye because we're going to be end up going away from wheat more than likely here. At least personally, I just, like I said in the last stream, personally just go completely away from it. So, um, but we'll see. I mean, who knows what this wheat will turn out to be this summer. I mean, it's it's gone through a lot, put it that way. Who knows, Alvin? You'll just have to wait and see. Do you have a gas forklift or an LP gas? Gas. That is a gas Clark forklift that we've got. We did a side-by-side comparison with no-tilling and strip tilling, both new machine, and with the no-till depth we complete. I mean, that's just something that you guys might have experienced. I mean, we have no issues with depth control on our planter and the drill either, as far as depth goes for no tilling. I mean, strip tilling, there again, you also are strip tilling a path right there for the planter to follow. So, I mean, it could have been situations where you have tighter ground. Necessarily, I mean, we have tight ground also. We have quite a bit of clay fields that we no till into, and we don't have any issues there. So, I don't know. It could have been just a situation that you guys were experiencing. We don't have any issues with depth control though, or inconsistent depth, I should say, really. How often will you be doing these live streams? It seems like I'm going to be end up doing these once a week, even though the community tab seems to be leaning towards once a month. But these once a week streams seem to be working out pretty good. Yeah, Lucas, I mean, like I said, we don't have any issues with inconsistent depth as far as seed placement goes with our planter and the drill. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know really what to say to that because we've had zero issues for the past close to 40 years no tilling. So, well, really 40 years. Well, close to it, really, like 38. I mean, I'll probably end up staying at once a week just because you guys kind of like this, kind of giving you guys a recap of what's kind of going on and keeping an update on basically everything of all the ins and outs of what's basically going on, really. I mean, that's really what's going on. Compare the cost to the price per bushel of corn and soybeans from the 46.50 time to now. Equipment inflation has gone crazy. That's true. Which that's one of the things our dealer brought up to me is inflation. But there again, you know, it's just ridiculous. I mean, my whole point was though is just, you know, with him talking with him on this, it's flat out ridiculous. I'm not going to argue with him that there was no inflation. I mean, obviously there's inflation. I mean, it's plain and simple. But I'm just, you know, overall, I'm just saying how crazy it is and how he thinks it's plain and simple, easy to justify some of this kind of stuff, and it's not. I mean, it's, you know, why do you think that we don't have any new equipment around here? I mean, it's all used. I mean, if it was easy, anybody would be doing it and buying it. So, I mean, thank God for big time operators that actually buy new equipment, and then there's a used market for people like us. So, well, not necessarily that even here, deer pasture. I mean, as far as acres go, I mean, yeah, some people have gone crazy as far as acres go. I mean, there's quite a few 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. There's one that's floating around 100,000, one time 100,000. But, you know, reality is grain prices have not changed one bit. Grain prices, I guarantee you, if you compare let's compare grain prices as far as the 80s. Let's do 1980 corn price. So 1980 average closing price based off of Chicago Board of Trade, $3.15. Year high was $4. Gee, I don't know. Was that the beginning of the year? Sounds awfully familiar. So far, average corn price right now is $3.57. Year low so far is $3.06. So yeah, I mean, basically, if you look at the end of the year and we come back to this right now, I wouldn't be surprised that the year low at $3.06 is going to be your average right now, your year low for right now as of May 17th. So, and your low is probably going to be around 255, 265, I would imagine. So, I don't know. I don't think acres really make a difference, in my opinion, because it regardless of inflation, I mean, it just, I don't know. It just doesn't make, I mean, it just, I don't know. You tell me, because you can't, it's hard to justify some of this stuff. I'll tell you that. Well, I'll tell you the truth on meeting with Rush Farms there. We were actually going to do a, I guess you would say, collab for this year, which we haven't like wrote it off and said we're not going to do it. We discussed around February that we were going to, well, actually in January that we were going to do it. We met up at the farm show and talked, and we never really talked. We never really got a chance to talk on the collab thing. And then the COVID-19 thing hit, and I didn't even think nothing of it then. But eventually here, yeah, I mean, and Ron and Brian, it's just, it's a list. I mean, you just got to make time to do it and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I've never heard that one before, Jeremy, on scrap price correlating with equipment price. I've actually never heard that one before. Basically, what I've always wrote it off as is because input cost, basically grain price went up, and cost per your basically cost per acre input price went up, and when grain prices fell down, basically comparing, back about 10 years ago, and then grain prices dropped here, 5, 6, 7 years ago after that $8 crazy high for corn. Your input costs stayed up and continued to go up. Fortunately for this year, input costs are down, and that's helped quite a bit. So, have you seen the new John Deere plot or pivot planters for the smaller farmer? I find that as a joke. Those 1745 planters, almost like an insult to injury. There, having a 4430 at the. I mean, not to say that the 4430 wasn't a pretty cool highlight at the, or probably one of the biggest highlights at the National Farm Machinery Show, but it's kind of almost ridiculous seeing a 1745 John Deere planter for over 100,000. Well, at the time it was going to be around $150,000 for that planter, and it's like not even a 12 row, and you're selling it for that much. I mean, if a guy's going to buy a new planter like that, you're not going to be pulling it with a 4430. I can tell you that. You're going to be pulling it with a 6 or 7R. I mean, like I said, some of this stuff, every live stream, I'm probably going to end up bringing this up about how cost of equipment is just flat out ridiculous. But, I don't know. But let's just take a look real quick and see if they got the price posted. I mean, at one time it was going to be $150,000, 150, not 115. So I don't know. $150,000 for an 8 row. That's just ridiculous. So let's take a look here. Don't even have it posted. Basically, it's a Kinsey planter. I mean, people can argue with me on that, but it's a Kinsey planter. Put it this way, it shouldn't be over $60,000 because an 8 row is $55,000. 12 rows, 70,000. That's still crazy. Our planter we bought for 40,000, 16 row, 1770. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, planters, stuff like that. I mean, stuff like this is ridiculous. Like cost per acre on equipment alone. You look at the hours on cost per acre use, stuff like that. I mean, that's basically what you got to consider. That's basically why uh, we still have the 4650 and alone. Also, have not even considered upgrading it. I mean, well, not haven't. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to upgrade the 4650. I mean, I know a lot of you guys would like to see us upgrade the 4650, but there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having the 4650 around at all by any means. So, geez, bulk fill Kinsey's 816. I mean, honestly, that is, in all honesty, Dan, that's not a bad price if you take a 16 row or a split row, basically a equivalent 1795 15-inch row planter. So I don't know. Yeah, $70,000 does not sound bad there when you compare 1795. Wow. I don't know. Well, 816. Never mind. That would be sorry, I got confused there. It's that'd be a 16 row split. So yeah, you're only talking an 8 row. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess you're right there in the running then. 70,000. So I don't know. Have you seen the prices on the new John Deere sprayers? Yeah, but I care not to comment on it, and I can tell you right now that we're not getting a new sprayer ever. Yeah, 20 foot. Yeah, I got screwed up there. I got to thinking it was a 40 foot, but no, it's a 20 foot. Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. People are not getting paid enough, and the price is going up on everything. Well, I mean, the problem there, Braden, is cost of, or basically your supply and demand curve. You look at right now with corn, like we discussed about this in the last stream about there's literally nowhere right now for corn to go. Ethanol usage is basically down, well, to like almost a near stop. And ethanol is not just going to start right back up like at full production. I mean, I know one comment was made in the last stream. I think it was the last stream about an ethanol or corn fueled. What was it? It was a corn fueled engine or something like that. I don't know. It was something to basically increase corn demand, but I think it was just DTN just blowing smoke on how they could theoretically magically increase corn usage, which doesn't happen overnight. So even though it seems like the USDA can pull acres out of their rear on how many planted acres they're projecting for 2020 on corn. I mean, 97 million acres. Are you kidding me? 97 million. So let's go to the discussion board questions, one of which I wanted to talk about last stream, and I never got a chance to, which is high populations in corn. So on high populations in corn, basically what I want to talk about there is what is your guys' highest population that you guys plant corn at? Did you bid on the 80-20? No, 80-20 auction is until June, first or second week of June, Jacob. And no, I'm not going to bid on that 80-20. That 80-20 is going to go crazy. So high populations on corn. Let's talk that. We have a high population corn plot out this year. Basically, it's just 2 strips out in our irrigated field. And we took that 40 on the corner. 140 on the corner that we have. We have 240 on the corners. So if basically it's not the one that's got wheat on it, it's the other one just it's closer to the farm. So just to clarify on that. So that corn was planted at 34,000, 32, 34,000. I can't remember offhand. Once I get the as planted maps on here, it'd be easier on the computer here. But for 34,000, I believe, is what Dad dropped it completely across that field. And then he took 3 rounds on either side of where we got the pivot park, because we actually park our pivots on a filter strip and plant around it, because it's, we can justify leaving 8 rows of corn there halfway across the field to park the pivot on for what we got to pay to move the pivot, which I talked about in the last video, or stream, I should say. So, and we took 3 rounds on either side of the pivot there that we parked the pivot on, and did 39,000 on irrigated corn on high sand ground that's irrigated. So basically what we're trying to do is just chase yield at this point and see, what, kind of yields we can be looking at higher populations. Because for the past about 4 years now, we've talked about higher populations in corn. So I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on higher populations in corn, and what do you guys see? Like, what do you guys, if you guys do it, what do you guys see as far as yield responses from it? Are you doing fertigation applications? What populations have you found work the best? So basically, just give it to me. How often do you have to pump your irrigation tires? To be honest, we have not touched our pivot tires. Our oldest pivot right now is 11. No, 07. It'd be 13 years old. 13 years. I probably just jinxed it. Well, we had issues with it last year with wells, but that was just basically due to cheap wells. Well, not really cheap wells. I mean, well isn't cheap, but just the pump on the well, really. So they just went bad, the motor on it. So yeah, basically, what do you guys see on corn populations as far as high population corn goes? Basically, I just want to talk about stuff like that, just to kind of get a ballpark on what we could be looking at there for 39,000. I don't know how many of you guys in this stream actually do that. Typically, we're dropping anywhere between, depending on the field, whether it's dry land irrigated, dry land good ground, dry land high ground, anywhere between 22,000 up to 34,000 is what we run on corn population. But like I said, we're chasing yield on this 39,000, basically just to see, because we've talked for 5 years, like I said, on what we could be potentially seeing here on lost yield by not increasing our corn population. It's kind of funny. We're trying to reduce our bean population in order to achieve higher yields with wider row spacing. But there again, on corn, we're trying to increase our corn populations to chase yield, to see if there's any benefit to going to a higher corn population, even though that is probably, you're looking at $300 some a bag. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting, though, to see. We are going to be doing the fertigation applications. Holy cow, it's pouring now. I don't know if you guys can really hear that or not. Probably not, but wow, here comes another inch. But yeah, so I guess not a lot of you guys do the over 35. But on our better lower ground, we drop anywhere between 30 and 30,000. But so what kind of yield? I mean, I don't care if, I could care less on brand or variety at this point. I'm just curious on population in general as far as yield goes. So what kind of yields did you guys end up seeing at 38,000? And did your neighbors ever tell you what kind of yields they saw at 40,000? Because we actually thought about going to 40. And as far as ground speed goes, we plan around 6, anywhere between 5.8 and 6.5. Dad had to drop I wasn't around when he planted this. I don't even know what the heck I was doing that day. What the heck? Getting no, we had fertilizer. I must have been. I was drilling beans that day down on Hefner's. Yeah, drilling beans down on Hefner's that day. The day I lost the GoPro. So so we would have dropped 40,000, like I said, but he ended up sitting at 39. And he had to drop from 6.5, pointing at 34,000 at 98.7 to 99.3 singulation to 5.5, so a whole mile per hour off or decrease in speed just to get that consistent singulation. so so at 35,000, Braden, you're seeing 255. And that's dry land, or is that irrigated? See, this is what we've basically talked about. We had a Purdue meeting 3 years ago, and they had a high population corn plot, and they had it anywhere between 22,000. Well, basically, they took it from 20,000 up to 40,000, and they had basically a couple reps walk out because this was a pioneer field day. Walk out there, grab an ear from 28,000 and grab an ear at 36,000 and grab an ear at 40,000. Every ear had the exact same potential, basically, as far as rows around and length goes. All of them were the same. I kid you not, all of them were the same. And I believe, let's just say, they were 18 by 42. Let's just say that. So, off the top of my head, I don't even remember. This was 4 years ago, 4 years ago. So let's just say 18 by 42 at 22,000. I mean, you're looking at 195 bushel corn there at 22,000 relatively, and I'm using an 85 for my fudge factor. So some of you guys may use 90, some of you guys may use 80. I just like to use 85, and we use 85 all the time just because it's right there in the middle, and it kind of gives you a pretty close relative there. So not to say that 80 and 90 don't, but it just seems for us 85 works pretty good for a relative there. So now let's take 36. So 18 by 42 at 36 divided by 85. I mean, you're looking at 320. That's crazy. So that's 320 potential there. And let's do 40,000. So 18 by 42 at 40 divided by 85. I mean, that's 355. So, I mean, 355 potential there. I mean, I think, remembering offhand, I think it might have even went higher than 40,000 now that I remember this, because we actually had one ear yield or basically have a potential of over 400. So now this is down at that Purdue field day. Now basically the biggest question was, and this was actually from Bob Nielsen, was he had for us was, what basically is your limiting factor there on achieving those yields? And it's basically, well, your fertility. I mean, what you're fertilizing for. If you're fertilizing at 36,000 for 280 bushel corn, are you going to get, what did I say, 300 or 320 bushel corn? It was 320. So yeah, if you're fertilizing for 260 to 280 bushel corn, you're not going to get that full potential out of that ear. So basically it's one of those things where you're looking at, it's like, maximizing your efficiency of your ears, basically. So basically, if you have, at 40,000, consistent ear size like that, and you do the fertigate, for us, it would be fertigating, and fertigating and basically feeding that corn and giving it the potential it needs, or the fertilizer, the food it needs to achieve the potential it has, we'd be looking at 355 bushel corn. So that's basically what we're looking at, as far as a high population corn plot goes. If we can, basically, I mean, now thinking about this, if we could slow that irrigator down, and or basically what we should do is I should sit down there or one of us should sit down there, open that pump up and set it a little bit higher for gallon usage there, and have that 3 rounds there, have a basically higher rate of what we put on for fertigating, and dial that back down after the 3 rounds have basically passed. And well, the problem is though, you're only going to be chasing at that one side, depending on which way you go. This will be interesting. That's all I can say. Basically, we're gonna have to watch these ears and see and figure out. Basically, throwing. Not to say that we're gonna throw the kitchen sink at it, because basically, what I'm trying, basically, we could do that. What I'm saying, but on those 40-acre fields, it takes 12 hours for that pivot to go around. So basically, if we start at 4 o'clock and walk that pivot around for those 3 rounds, and do that, do those 3 rounds at a higher rate, and then dial it back down and let it walk around, 12 hours later, you'd be looking around 2 in the morning, roughly 2 in the morning by the time it gets around to those 3 rounds. Well, not even that, really. It'd probably be closer to 3:30. And, so you would have to be there at that time in order to dial that pump back up or open that pump up. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't know. We'll have to think on that, because basically, if you're going to chase yield like that, basically, you got to basically throw the fertility it needs out there to achieve those kind of yields. Basically, that's why, you look at David Hula and Randy Dowdy, how they're chasing those kind of yields like that, but they're not. What was his population last year? I think his population, I want to say, was 38 or 40,000, I think. Dryland? I don't know. I can't remember offhand without looking this stuff up. Actually, do I have? Yes, I do. I do have National Corn Yield Contest book right here in front of me. But yeah, I mean, it's just real interesting on harvest population, stuff like that, as far as how high we can actually push these in order to achieve the yields that we want. Basically, I mean, yeah, I'd love to raise 300 plus bushel corn. I mean, necessarily, do I want to raise 500 bushel corn? Heck yeah, I do. But, it all comes down to ROI on that. I mean, I don't know. So, but what's the return on investment with the increase in fertilizer costs? Now, basically, that's something that we actually ran a pencil to, and I'll actually pull up our corn production worksheet that actually Dad dreamed up about 12 years ago on the Excel sheet here. So basically, let's look at 200 bushel corn. Let's do that. And okay, let's see here if we do that and that and that. Basically, what it boiled down to was, which I'll have to run some numbers here. Basically, I got to completely change this chart that I have pulled up right now and edit the figures on it. But basically, it was a 4-to-1 ratio. Every 15 bushel you increase as far as profit goes, and your return on investment goes as far as the fertigation applications go. If you can achieve the yields that you're chasing, it was basically a 3-to-1 to 4-to-1 ratio as far as return goes. So, which that's huge. as far as your return on investment for fertilizer costs goes. Now, granted, again, fertilizer costs are down, so that helps some, but at $2, at sub $3 corn, I mean, how far are you going to take this? So we use all Zematic brands. So for our irrigators, we don't run any valleys as of right now. We don't run any. So at one time, we had a rented field that a neighbor bought while we were renting, and our lease was not up yet while he bought it. So he ended up putting two irrigators on it, and they run valley, and they ended up putting two valleys on it. And we actually had the option to use valleys. Not to say that that's what made us not go to Zomatics. I mean, we were running Zomatics at the time that we were farming that piece. So we like our Zomatic dealer. We like our Zomatic irrigators. And it's just, again, personal preference, Case IH, John Deere, Zomatic, Valley. I mean, it's just all personal preference. So is a corner arm worth it? It just all depends on the field situation, really, there. It's a pencil corner arm. We've never priced a corner arm before, so I have no idea exactly how much those cost. So, or a Z fold. I don't know. I don't even think Zomatic makes, as far as I know, in the brochure, they don't even show they make Z folds anymore, but I imagine if you ask, they probably end up do, but I don't know. I would hate to think how much a Z fold costs. Probably not too bad. Probably not as bad as what I'm thinking, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. So let me check real quick, because there was actually only two discussion board questions on the community tab. One of which we talked quite a bit about earlier, about the 8530 not being on the planner. Other was, oh, why don't you all plant with the? Well, we talked about that too. Actually, there was three. One of the questions was, do you earn more money being a seed dealer or farming? For those of you that don't know, we sell seed for and a seed dealer for them for 32 years now. Basically, they benefit each other. Basically, that's the easiest way to say it. The seed business benefits our farming benefits our seed dealership, just because of basically who we know, farming and stuff like that. That just they benefit each other basically. So I'm not really going to discuss on the farm income versus the seed income, because that really doesn't need to be discussed. But they both help each other, so that's what matters the most there. And it's a real benefit of having the seed dealership. And plus, it's a benefit in itself having us being farming and selling seed, being able to actually get a realistic look at the products on our farm on soils that are very, very similar to what 95% of our seed customers run. So basically, that's a huge benefit for them, because if a product is going to work on our ground, it is going to work on their ground. And if a product doesn't work on our ground, we're not going to sell that product. Unlike some seed dealers that don't farm, not bashing, I'm not bashing anyone by any means, but just saying there are some seed dealers out there that will just sell a product because it's a product, and not knowing that product might not work on that type of ground. So that's why we do that's why we do test plots, not only for ourselves, but also for our customers as well. That way, when we do a field day, they can come out and take a look at the plots, and we can discuss varieties and such like that, and show them basically the pros and cons on all the varieties, and that way they can get a realistic idea on what's going to work for their ground. Because, like I said, 95% of the 95% of the varieties are going to, or sorry, 95%. What did I say earlier? I'm getting tired. 95% of the ground that our customers, or 95% of our customers farm basically the same ground that we do. So basically that helps us tremendously as far as that goes. Discounts on seed goes. Do not believe that we get a better discount than any of you guys buying seed, because we actually were paying more for our seed than, believe it or not, you guys can take this for however you want. But we were paying more for our seed than what our customers were. So until recently, that we were able to get the same discounts that our customers were able to get. So we're not getting any benefit as far as seed discounts goes over, our customers buying seed. So do not believe that we're getting, you know, a, an advantage basically being a farmer rep. So there's no advantage as far as that goes. As far as discounts goes, but as far as an advantage as far as selling seed goes, I feel by being able to, again, like I just discussed, the advantages there of having the ability to test our own products on our ground that 95% of our customers farm. So that's, I feel, is the biggest advantage that we have. So as a rep, being a farmer rep, so we don't use urea at all on any of our acres. So Dan, on that note, on a side by side with the planter versus a drill, um, I know a lot of you guys probably wish we would have, but basically our thing is there, since we know well enough that it's going to be a wash if we did a side by side on a drill versus 30s. Now, granted, if you guys followed me, for those that weren't following me last year, we did a sugar trial on beans. Basically, the sugar trial we used the 4-row, and we didn't run any sugar on the 7.5s, but we did have 30s and 7.5 side by side. We had about 10 rounds of 30s with the 4-row, and we did 7.5s and 30s side by side with no sugar. Obviously, we couldn't put sugar on the drill, but no sugar on the first pass or first couple rounds with the 4-row. Then we engaged the insecticide boxes, hooked the chains up and engaged those. And to be honest, we have no idea what we were putting down for sugar wise, as far as pounds or rate goes. Then we increased the rate, and then we increased the rate again. So basically, we had a little sugar plot there, which didn't really amount to anything. It was like a bushel. It was only like a bushel or two difference as far as increase goes on 30s versus sugar and no sugar. As far as the drill versus the 30s go with no sugar, the drill out yielded that by 6 or 7 bushel, and then the sugar versus the drill, it was like 4 bushel that the drill beat it by. So, it's just one of those things. So as far as why we didn't do it this year, drill side by side type like that with the 30s, well, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if we're going to since we are going to side dress the beans, we figured we shouldn't even put a side by side out for the 7.5s and the 30s, just because there's going to be a complete disadvantage there for the drill because of the fact that we're not going to be able to side dress the drill, or side dress the drilled beans. So it's kind of like, why even do it? Because we know we're not even going to get the benefit of side dressing the drilled beans. But trust me, it would have been cool to have a 30s versus 7.5 side by side, because actually we were going to do on that irrigated field 40-foot rounds of 7.5, skip 40 foot all the way across that field and come back through and lock up half the one gang of the drill and do 15 40-foot passes in between those 40-foot 7.5 passes and go across the field that way and kind of see what we could be seeing as far as 15s versus 7.5s. But our first thing, or basically before we could even propose that to our soil agronomists, they immediately said, when we first brought up how to get to high yield beans. Not to say that we want 100 bushel beans. We're not chasing Randy Dowdy or what's the other one? Who's the not before the guy before Randy Dowdy, soybean yield champion down in Missouri, Stein Yield. What's the guy's name? Not promoting Stein by any means, but just saying that he used Stein for a little while there. Kip Colors. He was a big Pioneer guy for a while there, and I think he still plants some Pioneer beans. Kip Colors. Not trying to achieve those kind of yields, but it would be cool. But 85 bushel beans would be nice. So, yeah, so that's why we didn't do a side-by-side. But yeah, most people don't do this. But I've talked to our agronomist told us that we talked to that they work with two guys, one of which is in Rockford, Illinois, and one is around Rockford, Illinois. I shouldn't say in Rockford, Illinois. He's around Rockford, Illinois. And the other is in northern Illinois also, I think over by the Iowa-Illinois line, I think. And they were seeing some pretty big benefits there of going from colders. Basically, they saw huge benefits of side dressing beans to begin with in 30s, and they run all 30-inch row beans. They also were running basically colders on their 28 applicators, and both of which were running 28 applicators and, just ran colders. Weren't running anhydrous before. Like I said, they were running in 28, where they were running 28 applicators as far as what they were running, or let's just say liquid applicators, because 28, you're almost just thinking that they're running 28. But anyways, let's just move on from that. They went to one of which, I think they didn't do it both at the same year because obviously they don't know each other really as far as on a personal basis, but they probably know each other just basically through or know of each other from our agronomist talking. That I know one, the first year did switch from the colders to the Y drops for side dressing. Basically took their colders off and mounted a side dress Y drop on their liquid applicator. Like I said, I'm going to start going with liquid applicator instead of 28 applicator because you guys might get confused that they're just applying 28, whereas they might be running 32, and 32 applicator just doesn't sound their flow off the tongue as good as what 28 does. But yeah, Justin, I can talk about that later. He saw a 15 bushel, and now this is flat out true because I'm not BSing you guys by any means. They saw a 15 bushel yield advantage by going with and I'm not sponsored or paid by 360 to say this by any means either. They saw a 15 bushel yield advantage by going from the colders to the Y drops for side dressing on their side dress applicator for liquid. So that alone is huge. Now, dribbling nitrogen on top of the ground or liquid on top of the ground or liquid fertilizer on top of the ground alone is a risky business. Yes, I know. It's something that's very risky that you don't normally typically think of doing, but the way I see it, it's trying to increase your overall use efficiency. And also, if you're going to run inhibitors with it, one of which I've found that's pretty popular through the grapevine of talking to people from Illinois, Nebraska, Missouri, Southern Indiana, some of which are in Ohio even. Agrotane seems to be the biggest one that most people seem to use. We've never really used an inhibitor before with our nitrogen on anhydrous, but which most guys around here use NServe for their inhibitors. But what seems to be the most common one used in the liquid market for when you're running the Y drops is for side dressing, as far as with a side dress applicator, not a Haggy, as far as, or a high clearance sprayer by, on that talk. Agrotane seems to be the one that most people that I've talked to use, or everyone that I've talked to on the side dressing applicator with Y drops have used. So, it's one of those things where we're just definitely going to have to be looking at definitely using an inhibitor of some sort, just to be on the safe side of things, obviously. So, so yeah, that's something that we're going to be doing here. So, as far as what people have told me, as far as a yield benefit goes from going from anhydrous to 28, one guy one guy in Nebraska I talked to, they are mostly irrigated, do fertigation. So basically a similar operation to us, but they're mostly irrigated. So they've got quite a bit more irrigation than what we do. They went from running anhydrous for side dressing to running a liquid applicator, but immediately jumped on the side dress 360Y drops and immediately started using those with their liquid applicator instead of even attempting to use the colders. And they saw from going from anhydrous, knifing it in the center of the row, to running 20 their liquid applicator. As far as what products they were using, I'm not entirely they wouldn't tell me their complete blend, but they were running 28 in thiazole with micros. As far as what micros they were using, he wouldn't disclose that, but and at what rates, he wouldn't disclose that either. And obviously they're running fertigation applications also, but they had side by sides out there and they showed a 25 bushel increase. You can take this for what it's worth. A 25 bushel increase from going from anhydrous to side dressing to running liquid applicator with liquid side dress applicator with Y drops immediately. Not even running the colders at all on the applicator, immediately going to, when they bought the applicator, 360 Y drops for side dressing. That alone is huge. 25 bushel is insane. If you can add that to corn, that's unbelievable. But it's possible, I guess. I mean, I'm not doubting the guy by any means, because it's something that, not to say that we're going to see, but something I would love to see. But with our fertility program, I doubt we're going to see that kind of a jump. But I would like to see a decent jump, put it that way. As far as our benefits of running the liquid, though, biggest benefit I see is the microbial activity. We're not going to be gassing those microbes down there. Now, a lot of you guys are just going to laugh at that, but basically that's what I feel is going to be the biggest benefit of not being, harsh on those microorganisms in the our no-till environment. So basically, we're just going to be slowly benefiting our soil over the course of many years of running liquid versus running anhydrous. So, so basically, there's going to be a bunch of trials that we're going to have this year's, like population-wise on corn. The soybean trial for seed treatment, that's not ours, that's Pioneer's. So it's one of those things that it's, they're just comparing a whole bunch of seed treatments. I believe some competitor seed treatments in there too. So really, we don't even know personally. I would talk more about it, but again, it's one, not ours. It's Pioneer's seed treatment trial, so above us. And two, we don't even know the seed treatments, like off the top of our head. Like, we don't even know. They haven't even told us what seed treatments these are. So basically, it's just, okay, this is trial 1 of the 32A71s. This is trial 2 of the 33A24s. These are 33A24s out there, not 32A71s. So trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, trial 4, trial 5. Replicate that again. So, and this is the trial. So we don't even know. We just planted it. We did it. And yeah. It was a totally voluntary type thing, and we said, hey, we're going to have this. We're going to have a show plot there right along the road. It's going to look nice. Might as well have, the option to do that. So we're not going to know too much about it when we do the plot, though, or the field day for the plot. But basically, we can say there's 5 different seed treatments, or 4 different treatments out there, seed treatments, and 1 untreated one. So 5 trials. First trial is untreated, but so yeah, I mean, the high population corn plot, side dressing beans, 30-inch row beans in general. Dad's never planted 30-inch row beans. I never had any opportunity there to even plant 30-inch row beans, just because one, it was a learning curve for Dad in itself, and plus I was drilling. Well, no, I wasn't even drilling beans at the time. I was running all over the place that day. If you watched the video, I was literally running nonstop that day, getting seed, getting fertilizer, moving fertilizer, doing this, doing that. So because we weren't used to having the planter run at like 7 mile an hour. Dad didn't really know how fast to run. He was running about 6.87. And yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like, holy cow, we can actually open her up a little bit here and get some stuff done. But just the way that field is too, you got to constantly be moving stuff around. So basically, I was the gopher for that day. So basically, I just didn't get a chance to even do that. So how many gallons of 28 inside? Oh, on side dress, you mean on beans? We're not actually going to side dress beans with 28. Basically, our theory is on that is that it's going to cause the beans to get lazy during their nodulation period. Yeah, side dress. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, we're concerned that if you run 28 on beans, which we have before later in the season around R2, R3, just because we had some leftover 28, and plus we were also trying to chase some high yield beans there. We saw no benefit at all to running 28 that late in the season. Granted, I've had numerous people tell me that there's some success stories out there running 28 on beans, but we're not actually going to do that. We're going to run thiazole with micros, side dress application. So as far as the rates go, and as far as what micros and rates for the micros go, that'll all be determined when we do tissue and soil tests out there. We're actually going to be doing tissue and soil tests, which actually, it's like, at the beginning of this video, I was talking about a grace period here. It's actually going to work out really nice for stuff like that, for tissue testing and soil testing for these side dressing this year. So that's going to be nice. We're actually going to get into that a little bit more here and do that a little bit more, because I want to get into tissue testing and soil testing more in season to kind of determine what kind of nutrient levels we're at in season, to kind of determine our use efficiency and stuff like that, because that's basically what we're chasing right now is use efficiency for nutrients. So yep. So as far as herbicides go, what do you, as far as that goes, Justin, what are you wanting me to discuss on that? Like as far as post-emerge, pre-emerge, what we're running for pre's, what we're doing for burn down, stuff like that. I mean, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but I'll, just try and answer your question the best I can, I guess you could say. Lucas, we have at least a total of 4 inches at least. To be honest, I do not know how much rain we got last night. I know it was around, I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know. I know it's over 4 inches total that we've gotten, but we've gotten quite a bit of rain. I don't know if Justin's still in here or not, but he might not still be in here. That might be why he hasn't responded yet, but so I can't really answer Justin's question without kind of knowing that. But just double checking chat here, guys. If you guys got any questions, just be sure to post them, but I'm just going to double check here. Have you seen? Yep, done that one, done that one, done that one. Go back a little bit earlier here. I think we're pretty well all caught up here. Yeah, we're at least 4 inches total. I wouldn't be surprised we get another inch tonight. There, like I said earlier in the video, we've gotten quite a bit of guys still out and about planting, and one of which I know that has over 2,000 acres of corn yet to plant. So, it actually is supposed to quit sometime after Tuesday. I guess we do have a chance. I don't know. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, and I don't know. Let's just take a look at the chances here. Supposed to taper off around midnight tonight. 40% chance to rain tomorrow, 50% chance of rain Tuesday, so it's going to rain off and on both those days. Supposedly they're talking the chance of rain next Wednesday, but that's a complete shot in the dark because they can't even predict the weather 3 days out. So what's the point in even telling you guys that? Supposed to get up into the 70s starting, I don't know, Thursday, and get up into the 80s towards this weekend, and actually stay in the 80s till the middle of next week and drop down into the 70s towards the end of next week. That's your weather for Northwest Indiana. Now back to you guys. I don't know. How was that for a little weather forecast there? No, I'm not going to be a meteorologist. No. How many antique tractors do you have? We have a 530 single front wheel, 1959. A 630, that's mine, 1959. Got that when I was 5 or 6, I think we got that for me. Got that from, I can't really say the guy's name, but we got that from a farm that we farmed north of 30. And it came out of a barn that the barn is still standing, which is kind of cool. And drive past that every time I go up to Union or deliver or take corn up there to the elevator. Came out of a barn there, and actually the W power unit came out of there. Yeah, W power unit came out of there. We had, what else did we buy from that guy? We had an 830 that we bought and sold. We had a 720, we had a 620. Both of those we sold parts from them. We sold parts out of them. We had a B. That B was pretty well rusted beyond belief. And we have an unstyled A that we bought a few years ago with the 530. The unstyled A is a 36, I believe, and that W power unit, I believe, is a 36. So we also have sorry, I was just reading one of the questions there, one of the comments. We also have a style G. We have an unstyled G that's actually a pulling tractor. That unstyled G is, but that half of that is ours and half of that is with a neighbor. No, we've never looked into a gleaner combine. Never. What else do we have? We got a 4020. We got the 4020 last August. God, that was a rough time getting that thing out of that barn, though. Oh man, I'm kind of glad, and I kind of wish we did a video on it, and I'm kind of glad we didn't do a video on it because Dad and I about killed ourselves getting that out of there. It was pretty stupid on our part. We didn't stop and get some water somewhere, get something to drink. We didn't have a cooler in the truck to get water, and it was the hottest day of the year. And I'm not a fan of spiders. There were spiders in this barn. I kid you not, this big. Holy cow. But crawling all over the floor. I kid you not. There was like dozens of them. Oh my God. Screw that, Jacob. You can come up and wash it. How good of a job you guys do washing them down there at Monticello. We haven't tractor pulled. Tractor pulling was actually before my time. Well, actually, necessarily wasn't before my time. Dad actually quit. Dad and Grandpa and them all quit. Well, the neighbors quit shortly after we did. Well, the neighbor that we pulled with, at least. Basically, when the block cracked on the G, we ended up quitting, and that I think was in 03. And Dad really wants to get back into it. There was a 4430 open station at one of the auctions that I actually was trying to buy, mostly just to have. And Dad actually was more looking at it the fact that we could make it into a pulling tractor, and because he's been really wanting to get into the pulling, back into pulling again. I joked that we should take the 4630 and put different injectors on it and turn the pump up a little bit more on it and go through it and make it into a pretty awesome pulling tractor there, Dan. So, but anyways, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Has it been nice this year on the seed side to not have to switch guys into shorter maturities? Really, we didn't have too many guys switch last year as far as maturity wise goes, because we actually were pretty decent in our area compared to pretty much everywhere else as far as rain goes. So it's kind of like one of those things where, yeah, we had some guys switch to 107, then switch up to 105 and 103 day. $500. I'll do it myself for that. Holy cow. No, that's actually a pretty good price probably for $10 an hour washing a combine, really, because it takes me about 4 or 5 hours to go through it from top to bottom and do a really, really good job, just the same way you guys do, Jacob. So, yeah. But yeah, so we didn't really have too many issues as last year switching varieties into shorter varieties, and plus we plant anywhere from, at least for us, we plant anywhere between 105, well, 103. This year we didn't have any 103 ourselves planted. We plant anywhere between 103 and 112. This year we had anywhere between, we had 105 day out, we have 100, no, we have 106 day out, 107 day out, 108 day out, 110 day out, and 111 day out, and 112 day out. So no 105 day. Definitely quicker. Probably one of the quickest that Dad can remember and that I can remember that we got done that. So. Yeah, we've never ever looked into a gleaner, Ryan, ever. Oh, I guess I'm pretty much caught up on the live chat here. Thought on rotary versus walker. To be honest, I myself have not been around a rotary. Well, I should back that up. I haven't been around a walker combine enough to kind of voice my opinion enough on a walker combine. But as far as a walker, rotary combine goes, supposedly John Deere is, now I know Dan's going to chime in on this about the bi-rotor combine, about the patent on that and how John Deere came about with that patent and stuff like that, and how the new X9 combine is essentially a New Holland combine. Well, it'll just be interesting to see on the bi-rotor performance goes, stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I guess New Holland's proven the performance of the bi-rotor, I guess. I haven't really been ever around a New Holland enough to even voice my opinion on the New Holland, so I'm not even going to go there with New Holland because, like I said, we've got like little to no experience with that, except by, I don't know, walking around with the farm show. So, and even that, I hardly ever really look at them at the farm show. I don't know, just never really have taken the time to really. 60-foot booms on our sprayer, Evan. That's a good question there, Scrody. I don't know if you were just really wanting me to say your name there or what, but yeah, that's a good question there, Scrody. When grain prices go up, because that is a question everybody's asking. What in the world did I get invited to on Facebook? Andrew. Oh, sure. Accepted. Oh my goodness. Hannah Community Group. I swear, I hate that group half the time. Yep, and that's why John Deere bought the I don't know, design from one of those guys or whatever and shelved it, I guess, and have never. I don't even know why they've never even used it, because I guess. Uh, but yeah, yeah. So I guess, I mean, it'll just be interesting to see where John Deere takes it, I guess, or what their take is on the bi-rotor twin rotor. So it'll be pretty cool. Um, I don't like uh, the Fent Ideal combine at all. I don't agree with that design at all. Dad and I have looked over that rotor over and over again and really don't understand uh, how there's not going to be grinding of corn issues and stuff like that. I mean, I just don't understand the RAS bars. The RAS bars are literal, like, there's literally no flow on a rotor. On a spiral design such as the on the RAS bars, because you look at the RAS bars and they're literally, it just doesn't make any sense when you look at that rotor at all. And it's like a combination between a basically a gleaner design threshing system with a rotor design, and you throw that in together, and it just I don't know, it just doesn't make any when you look it over, it just doesn't make any sense. But I don't know. No, we don't run any Prosero or Prosaro on the wheat at all. What we do for the wheat, we actually run a growth regulator on the wheat. Actually, no, we don't run a growth. Sorry, we don't run a growth regulator on the wheat. We run it on the rye. Um, we run Palisade on the rye to control the growth on that, because if you basically do a high fertility management program, like basically what we do, basically we run a high fertility management program on the wheat and we replicate that exactly on the rye, same program. If you let that do that, or if you do that on the rye, that rye is going to get insanely tall, and it's not going to be able to support the head, and basically it's just going to fall over. So basically, you want to run a growth regulator out there. We've learned in years past to do that. So, um, yeah. No, Dan, I don't know if it's just because of the rotor design on that, but I never really got a chance to talk with Brian over in Ohio about what his thoughts are on it, but his exact, thoughts. I mean, I did watch some of the videos on it. I never really got a chance to take the time to watch one of his videos on his exact thoughts in it from the video, but I want to corner him at some point here and ask him on online about that, about what his thoughts were on it. And um, from what I've heard, a lot of guys that ran it and I talked to that run it weren't really impressed with it. Um, I've heard the auger on it, the unload auger, is insanely long. To be honest, I do not know exactly how long it is, but um, it. I've heard it's just insanely long, and I've heard that John Deere Bolt and Fendt are coming out with, or working, or in the works of trying to get a 60-foot head out. So I mean, to me, on the Fen Ideal, I mean, like I said earlier, the rotor design just doesn't make any sense to me. For some reason, they wouldn't even let you in the cab. at the farm show, which I thought was an absolute joke, not even being able to get up in the cab and take a look at it. I thought that was ridiculous of them not even allowing that. But I don't know what the situation there was on that, but whatever. I mean, I don't know. But it's interesting. It's just another take on a threshing design, I guess. But I don't know. Exactly. I mean, that's why we choose John Deere. I mean, it's just for us. I mean, it's just the serviceability and everything. What we've known and grew up with and stuff. So I mean, yeah, we've got a Bain Welker dealer, yeah, well, definitely closer than our John Deere dealer, but I don't know. We've actually never worked with. We've worked with our Bain Welker dealer for Kinsey parts and McDon parts. That's what it was. McDon parts. We got some poly shields from them, poly guards from them underneath there, and I don't know. Service is decent. I don't know. I've never. I wouldn't mind. Like I've run it past the salesman before. That I joked that would be kind of interesting to run a or demo something other than green. Even though we've only demoed a 680 before from our dealer, which I didn't even think was actually going to happen till. And the only reason why the 680 came about was because he wanted us to try. He wanted us, our salesman, to try a John Deere head, which I told him the only way we would ever consider a John Deere head was that if he would bring it out and let us demo it. Well, a 40-foot John Deere head, the newer ones, don't work. I think it's like 2016 or 2017 and newer, don't work on the older S series without doing an adapter, basically taking apart the single point hookup and adding something or changing something. And the in order for the head to be, I guess, compatible with the older S series. So, anyways, I flat out told him it's like, well, I guess you're gonna have to bring out a combine also. So that's why we got a chance to run a 2016 S680. Which, yeah, I love the S680. I mean, that was an extremely nice combine compared to our 690. I mean, just because it had some newer features in it compared to our 690 that we run. Had the advanced power cast tailboard, which at first I thought would be really cool to have. After running it, I think I understand why a lot of guys are taking them off. To me, I wasn't really at first. I was impressed with it about the even spread of it at first, till we got it out in the field more, and after our dealer left and I got a closer look at it. It didn't. It's. I don't know if there's like I imagine there's a way to adjust it, but it seemed to throw heavy in certain. And it wasn't like throwing heavy to one side. It was just very inconsistent, throwing heavy residue on either side. Very inconsistent on stuff like that. So, it just didn't really have a nice even spread compared to our power cast. Even though this is basically the newer style of the power cast that we have on our 690. So basically, I'm still sold on our power cast tailboard that we have on our 690. I'm very impressed with that and how even the spread is. So, would I like to demo Case equipment or New Holland equipment or more John Deere equipment? Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying some. I mean, doesn't hurt to try it. I mean, who knows? I mean, not to say that we're going to go all red or go red. I mean, it doesn't hurt to get your feet wet and understand, get a better understanding of other products out there, instead of just sitting here saying, oh, John Deere's the best. John Deere's the best. Well, there's other products out there. I mean, you can't just, be sold on one product just because you've run it all these years. I mean, you got to be open to options, I guess I'm saying. So, would you ever put airdrops on your header? Oh, so an air reel. We actually ran an air reel on our 25-foot head. We ordered that without a reel. and put the air reel on it, and a Crary air reel. And we actually had a Crary head after our 25-foot head. It came out of Canada. We bought that down at Maori auction. It was a 36-foot Crary head. Basically, it was a John Deere head, but Crary design. Had a Crary air reel on it, dual blowers, a blower on either side, and because it was a split reel. And basically, holy cow, why is my phone blowing up? Jacob, why are you Snapchatting me? But anyways, we ran a Crary air reel head, 36 foot, and then we went to the 35-foot McDon that we currently have and are going to be running this year because of current corn price. I would like to run like an AWS system. I feel the Crary might take a little bit more power than what the AWS system does, and I kind of like the AWS design over the Crary system. So, just my take on it. So, but no, I've never been around an AWS system in person as far as running out in the field to compare to a Crary. So, I've got no experience there on an AWS system. As far as looking at them at the farm show, I've looked at them both, and we've been around the Crary. So, um, I just know that an air reel takes quite a bit of power to run. So, and your overall fuel usage, so it's going to increase. Hudson is our John Deere dealer. They are expensive, but they are right when you need them, or right there when you need them. Yeah, Greenmark's our dealer. Our closest one's Knox. Our salesman's based out of Plymouth. Mainly, we do most of our parts service with Knox. We're starting to do a little bit more with Plymouth, though, just because mainly Plymouth seems to have more of our parts more of the time than what Knox does. Um, so we're doing more and more business over at Plymouth. Um, we do some business over at the old A&M store. Now we're formerly A&M over in Valpo. It's now Castonia's. It's been Castonia's for I don't know how many years now. We've actually done a tiny bit of business down at DeMont, down at that Castonia dealer, but it's just basically whoever has it available, basically, whoever has parts that are available. So we'll go to either. Definitely loved the air reel. The air reel was really nice, especially in short beans. Really not, you know, a big, huge thing in wheat, I guess. The biggest thing was just really in short beans. So, Fent was trying to copy trans design the Gleaner has been using since the 70s. So your uncle just got the 9560R. Who's your uncle again, Evan? Isn't it? It's not Cox's, is it? No issues with down corn last year. Well, yeah, we did. We had some issues in some drought fields that were flat out toasted with drought, and that was just due to the poor standability on that was just due to the dry weather and everybody. Jeff, that's who it is. Yeah, Jeff Harden. I'm pretty sure that's your uncle, right? Harden. It's not Hunky. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, well that's cool. Is that it's not a new one, is it? I haven't been up around Union Mills and that for quite like a few weeks now, so I don't know. I haven't been up in that area for a little while. Um, that's cool. You guys get that from Greenmark, or did he get that from Greenmark then? Well, I guess it really doesn't matter on the stream here. That needs to be said, but um, yeah. I mean, I guess that was probably the only benefit there, and wheat was just more um, even flow the material into an auger head. Um, but going by putting that on a draper, I guess basically the only thing you're going to be looking at there with an air reel is shatter loss gain. So that is kind of what you would only be looking at for an advantage there. Um, but it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like V drives. It would be nice to have, but do you really need it? No. Um, but yeah, so no. But going back to like demoing equipment, yeah, it'd be nice to uh, demo some newer equipment. Not to say it has to be brand new, because by any means we're not going to be buying brand new equipment. Um, but something newer that I would be wanting to look at someday into the future here, but it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't know uh, what our salesman's thoughts are on that, but he thought at first my YouTube was a joke, but I don't know. I don't honestly know what his thoughts are on it at this point right now. I have no idea. He was pretty impressed though with the drone video I did of the S680 demo, so I don't know. Yeah, it's something that a lot of guys are looking into. Roger, is the draper systems, um, or having air systems on a draper, which I definitely see the benefit of it. It's just the fact that you got to look at justifying it. Which, yeah, you can. I can see justifying it. It's just one of those things where, you know, do you want to spend money on your draper right now? But our thing is also is that we want to go to a 40 foot. So it's kind of like, why spend the money on our 35 right now if we're going to be looking at trading it off or selling it, and going to a 40? So it's kind of like one of those things we'll look at for when we go to a 40, because I don't, I can't say I don't foresee us going to a 45. I would like to go to a 45 someday, but we're just going to run our go to a 40 someday. So no more 45. As far as right now, no, not with our current 690. Um, how much power do they take to run? Offhand, I do not know. It's quite a bit though. Um, that's basically what I'm looking at here is our fuel usage. Basically, more increase in power usage correlates to more fuel usage. So basically, it's just one of those things. So but yeah, back to the 45. No, we're not going to run a 45 on our 26-foot auger. Yes, I know we can extend that auger to a 28 or 29-foot auger due to just us being, I guess you could almost say, lazy, just not wanting to mess with it, being against John Deere's wishes of messing with it. Not to say that we don't do stuff, you know, against John Deere. I mean, by God, we've done some stuff that John Deere would just shake their heads at, but um, it not on this combine. We won't be running a 45. I hate to say it, but yeah. Yeah, I mean that's basically the biggest thing that we saw by going to a draper is the decrease in power usage from having the drape by having not having an auger, one, on the head, and two, because well basically those augers take a tremendous amount of horsepower alone to turn, and two, the decrease in power from the wind systems, and basically, I mean, the evenness of feeding with a draper alone, I mean, it was just huge. So that's why we really like our drapers. So exactly. I mean, we've got a variety of all. So with the custom work, there's quite a bit of bigger fields now that we deal with. So that's why 45 would have been nice, or would be nice. A 40 uh, just seems to be the ideal size, especially if we go to a soybean planter. A soybean planter at 40 foot, you'd be pass per pass with it, and doing trials and such would be a lot easier, especially with a 40-foot applicator. It'd just make things so much simpler. And that's basically what I am trying to do is just increase our overall efficiency and try and minimize any headaches that we have, and have had in the past. So, well, we will run this stream. We are at 101 likes. That is awesome, guys. Thank you very much for that. We will run this stream for another 5 minutes. 5 minutes, we'll run it. And so basically, wind down the discussion here. Last minute discussion questions. And we'll end it here around 10:20 then. So no 45, even though I really talked it up. Yeah, 45 though would be nice on certain fields. Just it's not going to happen. And a different Draper is not going to happen this year unless somebody wants to gift me one. Definitely, Jeremy. I definitely agree with you there on that. But yeah, it's 35 on a 690 insane. Yeah, but like I said earlier, where are you going to buy a combine for that kind of money? So, would you build an other grain in the future? You mean as far as building a bigger grain setup, Evan? Or adding on to the grain setup, Evan? Chopping corn heads, are they worth the money? In my opinion, no. More added maintenance. For our operation, no. More added maintenance. Oh, okay. Ben. Okay. Yeah, I'll get to your question there, Evan, after this one. More added maintenance for what we do, basically by running the vertical till out there and sizing the residue, not trying to disturb the soil profile, but sizing that residue after harvest. And if we don't have any cover crops in those cornfields that are going back in the corn for corn on corn, basically we'll hit it again in the spring right before planting. So 2-pass vertical till system if we eliminate the cover crops for that field or don't have cover crops planned for that field. But if we have cover crops for that field, we'll just work it in with the vertical till in the fall. So, but basically by having by sizing that residue, there's really no reason to have a chopping head. And plus, it's just more added maintenance on a corn head. And I like to have things simple on the corn head, and so does Dad. And more added maintenance on the corn head just means more downtime in the fall. So, and I really don't, and neither does Dad want to have more downtime in the fall. So, that's just my take on that. So, would you build another grain bin in the future? Yeah, definitely. Definitely in the near future. I'm not sure. At the beginning of this year, we were going to be doing something with a holding bin. I, at this point, don't know what the plan is at this point. I should probably talk to Dad about that tomorrow and find out what his thoughts are on that. Probably not going to be doing anything, I imagine. I personally don't think we probably should. I mean, well, it's kind of a 50-50 shot in the dark, halfway dozen of the other of what we should do. I mean, yes, we should. Yes, we shouldn't. I don't know. It's just hard to tell. My dad is starting to think that the craziness could cause another round of the 80s again. Farmers going out of business in droves. Yeah. Basically, as of right now, in my opinion, is the only difference between now and the 80s is interest rates. We have 60, just under 70,000 bushel of storage, 42,000 the one bin, 60 and 20 some thousand in that 36-foot bin. That 42-foot bin has 42,000. Holding bins, North Holding Bin has 37, South Holding Bin has 32, and we also have a screenings bin. Neighbor gets all of our screenings. Yeah, but back to the 80s comment. I think my opinion is I didn't live through the 80s. Um, but basically, my takeaway on that is there was no, we weren't coming out of a grain embargo. Well, we were close to it with the grain embargo, with the grain embargo versus the trade deal. You can almost basically say they're about the same. Not really to say that an embargo is the same thing as a trade war, but it was basically, if you look at it from a trade standpoint, it's on an impact of the markets. So you look at it and it's fairly similar. Um, but if you look at it on a relative scale, basically the difference between now and the 80s is basically, in my opinion, interest rates. Interest rates are low at an all-time low, and that's just thanks to the economic impact of what this COVID-19 has causing interest rates to be drove lower due to basically no activity on the economic side of things. Basically, the interest rates being that low or being set that low in order to stimulate the economy, which it's yes and no, arguably not doing anything. So it's, I don't know. So henceforth, in my opinion, has it drove down land prices? Yes, in my opinion, it has at least dropped land prices $1,000 to $2,000 an acre as far as land sales go. Arguably, you can say yes or no to that based on your area and what things are going on in your area. In my opinion, it has dropped them by that much in our area. Um, but you guys can argue that if you choose to. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting, and I have a feeling we're going to be facing this for the next 3 years. So, well, it is already past 10:22, and with that, I guess we're going to wrap this stream up. Thank you guys for watching. I will have another stream next Sunday. As far as if we're going to have anything in between that, we will just play it by ear. You guys will just have to play it by ear. Why don't we buy any fertilizer and chemicals from Farm Fertilizer? Well, we priced them this year, and we priced them a little too late. Put it that way. They were actually the highest priced at the time when we priced them. At the time when we priced them, and he even admitted that he was going to be the highest priced around, more than likely, or pretty high. He didn't say for sure that he was actually going to be the highest price, but for us that we've priced, I'm not going to discuss who we priced, but he was the highest at the time when we priced. But we're going to shop around next year and definitely consider Farm Fertilizers for our chemical. Our fertilizer dry, we buy all from our custom applicator through our custom applicator. So he buys seed from us. We buy all of our fertilizer from him for our dry fertilizer. So it's just kind of a nice mutual relationship we got there going. So plus we're really good friends with him also. So um but yeah, so we're gonna consider all of our options next year for chemical, put it that way. So but on that note, it is 3 minutes past the ending time, I guess, that we kind of set it at here. We're going to go 4 minutes, actually. We're going to go ahead and end it here. Like I said, I will have a discussion board, question board posted for the next live stream, unless we have a live stream before Sunday. But I imagine it sounds like, based on how this week's going to play out, it sounds like we're probably just going to end up shooting for Sunday again. So a week from today, 8 o'clock, same time. Most streams are going to end up being at 8 o'clock unless it's out in the field, and that'll be different then. So, which I'll be working on also, trying to do a live stream out in the field and do that more in the future for you guys. But, anyways, thank you guys for watching as always. Be sure to give this stream a like on your way out. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. There we go. And yeah, I will catch you guys in the next stream. Thank you guys for watching again tonight, and have a good night.